Kuhn is the fullback with the first and goal. Kuhn gets the ball. Pyle trying to make his way in for the touchdown. What a great second effort. Y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. I said so. I keep big bills up in my heart on the dirty like blood. So ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful.
Wolfpack, what is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Rose Street. RoseStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves here for the final Thursday night football preview. I'm just so pumped for the championship week for all of you folks out there. I hope to bring home the titles. Full disclosure, I made 4 of 6 semis. I did not advance in any of them. So you guys are what I'm rooting for now. The reason I am here is to help you guys get not only to the title game, but to bring them home. Take them home for the Wolf this year, baby, because I do not have any rooting interest like the first time in a long time. Again, 4 to 6 semis, advancing none of them. It was a heartbreaking weekend. My studs didn't show up, but hopefully you have better fantasy fortunes. If you're here live, it probably means you did. So hell yeah, let's go Wolfpack. Let's make sure we get those dubs. As always, I'll rip through the sit starts that I like, the higher, lower Hail Mary. Before that, we'll hit some news. We'll preview this Thursday night football game with a lot of interesting implications, a lot of stuff going on here tonight with no Derrick Henry, no Tony Pollard, lots to dig into. So we should just get right into it, Wolfpack. But as we do, we get going, that thumbs up button does help us so much get out to more people. Thank you so much if you're willing to hit that, as well as any super chats. If you need to cut the line, get ahead so you make sure you get your question in. We typically do get through them all, especially later in the season when it seems like there's less questions, less people involved in it. But just to make sure you get in, you want a full and open response, make sure you send in that super chat. Maybe you just want to thank your boy. Either way is so greatly appreciated. Thanks again so much for being here for your Thursday night football preview, your Week 17 preview, the championship week, baby. I'm just fired up to help all you guys out. So let us get going. It looks like we already do have a super chat already, though. So before we start diving into the news and all that good stuff, my man Sebastian Alexander saying he's been going back and forth all week. He cannot decide on a defense. And Sebastian, I'm going to tell you right now, you have two top options, literally 1 and 2. So honestly, I don't know that you can go wrong. I love both of these. If I have to go one or the other, I'm going to go 49ers myself. They're my number 1. The Dallas defense, again, my number 2. I think both are great options. I'm flip-flopping myself as I answer the question for you, Sebastian, because the script is great for them both. Personally, though, I do lean Niners very, very slightly. They're both facing backup quarterbacks. In fact, I mean, the more I think about Dallas, they're facing the 3rd-string quarterback who just got signed a week ago. So how competent is this offense going to be? They clearly are punting this game for Week 17, or Week 18, rather, the Titans are. Everything's on the line in that divisional matchup between the Jags. So they're resting Henry. They're resting Malik Willis, I guess. I don't know. They're probably getting a feel for Dobbs. Can he be our starter in Week 18 here? And my guess is going to prove no. The guy has played minimal NFL action. He threw a pick in 40 yards so far in his NFL career. Not a great showing so far for Josh Dobbs, whatever this creature is behind center. So I do not feel great about anything going on for the Titans. It makes the Cowboys a great play. That all being said, Carr has just gotten benched. So the 49ers, who I think is just an overall better defensive unit, also facing Jarrett Stidham, a backup quarterback who has thrown 3 interceptions throughout his starting NFL experience, has not been anything impressive. As a Patriots fan, I've seen him firsthand, and yeah, he made a couple nice throws here and there in his games, but nothing solid in terms of decision-making. So you got into my head again, tier 1 and alone in that tier is 49ers, is Dallas. This is a killer question. Like, I'm with you going back and forth. I think you do have to trust your gut. If you want a little action tonight and that pushes you over the edge, the Cowboys are probably going to get 12 to 20 points tonight. I do think the 49ers probably are going to do the same and are a little bit safer, Sebastian. Again, 2 top defenses. I'm with you. I understand why you're going back and forth. I do, gun to my head, go with the 49ers here. So best of luck, Sebastian. Let me know who you end up choosing. I don't think you have a wrong answer here. I think you're going to get 12 minimum from both of them. Obviously, one will outscore the other. My bet would be on the 49ers for this one. Thanks again so much, Sebastian. You've consistently sent in super chats and supported your boys. So pumped to see that you're in the finals. Thank you so much. And anybody else that wants to cut the line, that is the way to do it again, that super chat. But a free way to help your boys. With over 20 of you right here for kickoff. Love to see it. That thumbs up button. Help us get out to more people as we grow. Let's talk about now the Thursday Night Football showdown we've got tonight. Cowboys at Titans, like a preseason game at this point, given how many starters are going to be out across both sides. So let's talk about how I think this game goes. Certainly a ton of news to cover. One, Tannehill moved to injured reserve, could theoretically come back in the playoffs if they get somehow into the playoffs and then win a game as well. So I do not expect to see Tannehill the rest of this year. But Malik Willis is also getting benched. They're going to Josh Dobbs, as mentioned in Sebastian's question, which is why Dallas is a top 2 defense, in my opinion, this week. The Titans are going to be pathetic on offense. Who again knows what this Dobbs guy is going to bring to the table? He has barely played this entire NFL career. First career start, again, like I mentioned, 45 passing yards in his career, 1 interception, has barely done anything but look like shit on the NFL field. So good matchup for the Cowboys for sure. Makes me very nervous to start any Titans. You already weren't probably starting any of the passing game weapons. No Chig, no, Robert Woods. Treylon Burks, as exciting of a talent as he is, blanked last week with Malik Willis. I don't expect Josh Dobbs to suddenly be the revival of Treylon Burks here. The one question you probably are asking is, can I trust the running game? Which obviously Derrick Henry all year has been an absolute stalwart, but for your fantasy championships, he is just ripped out from underneath you, not playing this week, as similar to Tony Pollard. We'll cover first Derrick Henry being out because Hassan Haskins is, quote, in line for a big role in Thursday Night Football. He did play the only running back snaps besides Derrick Henry last week, 15 snaps, caught a couple balls, looked decent. I've always been a pretty big Haskins fan just because, I love the big blue. I thought CJ, go blue, big weekend this weekend. But number 2, the guy is just like a plotter, sure, but a plotter with a little bit of burst. Definitely some strength, a tough runner here, Hassan Haskins. I still have a really hard time, though, being a fan of the player. I don't think he's going to do much tonight. It's a really strong running defense, for the Cowboys. 3rd fewest points allowed to running backs. In general, they actually, if you watch games, they don't really look like a great running defense, but the classic bend, don't break. They've given up bottoms of the league in terms of rushing touchdowns. If you're expecting Haskins to get there, it's certainly on a touchdown. And is this team going to be in scoring position at all tonight? He'll certainly get the work. I mean, I bet you Haskins gets 20, 25 touches, a pure volume bet. Maybe he does shock the world, break a nice run. Maybe they do get into the red zone off a defensive turnover, something of that nature, and he falls his ass into the end zone. I personally wouldn't want to bank on that. He's my running back 33. So again, a really desperation flex. Let me know if you do have Hassan Haskins questions, because like I said, I like the player. I love the volume he's going to see tonight. I hate the matchup, hate the overall offensive situation he's in. I do not find any of that to be a fertile ground for fantasy points tonight. So I would unlikely recommend you go Haskins, but please do let me know if you have questions on him. On the flip side, Tony Pollard is also going to be out for the Cowboys without a lot on the line, with him a little bit banged up. They're wisely choosing to rest him, get him geared up and ready for the playoffs coming up here. So does that make Zeke a smash play? It is a very, very difficult run defense. The 2nd fewest points allowed to backs is the Titans, in particular, really limiting against running backs as rushers. They actually give up the 3rd most receiving points to running backs, but that's not necessarily Zeke's specialty here. All that to say, though, I do think this is a spot you would have to go Zeke. He bumped up to my running back 15 on the week. You have to have some very good options to not be considering him, even in a tough matchup. No Pollard. He should be getting, throughout at least the first half, all of the work. The one risk does come if this team starts to blow him out. Because like I said, this is a Titans team that is clearly rolling over and gearing up for a big, essentially playoff game next week. So do they just ultimately die on defense too and let this team, the Cowboys, pile up early points? Do the Cowboys then get a chance to rest Zeke, to rest Dak, to rest some starters? We will find out. I personally still play Zeke, though. I still trust him tonight. There's a lot of buzz that Malik Davis, their 3rd string running back, is going to be heavily featured so they can get him a little feel for what this guy can do. Can he bring anything to the NFL level if they do end up letting go Pollard and things this year? He's a free agent this offseason. So I do think we'll get extensive burn from Malik Davis. Would I trust him in my fantasy championship? Absolutely not. But at $200 on DraftKings, a lot of you guys play that showdown lineup. That's a great way to save a ton of money. Not that there's a ton of people you have to pay up for anyways, but if you wanted to put CeeDee Lamb at your captain spot, you're going to need to save money somewhere. So I do think he is in play. Malik Davis is a $200 punt. Again, expected to be extensively featured, but I do think Zeke is in a great spot to get a ton of work tonight. Ultimately, in terms of my picks for the game, I'm going to go, this is a tough one. 14 points is a ton to cover. I still think they cover it, though. The Cowboys do. I think we hit the under even still. looking at about like 30-ish total points. I think the Cowboys, I don't think the Titans put up a single point tonight, maybe a field goal at best. I think the Cowboys might put up 20, get the starters off on the bench and call this one a day. So I take the under here. That's the easier bet of these. I do think 14 is a lot to cover, especially if Vrabel, always a well-coached, always a tough team, even if the backups are the ones going. But again, a Dobbs-led offense. I just don't see any points coming from the offense. It's just a matter of, does the defense end up holding them from below 14 points? I don't know about that either. So I'm going to go Cowboys with the points and take the under on the 40 there. Let us know if you have any other questions for those Thursday Night Football guys. Again, that super chat will get you ahead of the line. Make sure you get your question answered. I should be able to get to them all by the end of the show. It looks like we have a few more super chats that have come in, so I'll make sure to hit those now before we preview some other Week 17 news. So let's get back here. And Sebastian, I just realized I did miss the second half of your question. You have Jacobs if you pick the 49ers. Well, I'm also pretty low on Jacobs this week. I don't know who your other options are going to be. We'll cover that in a little bit. I guess that can factor in just a little bit because you're then now rooting for nobody to score against the Niners. And I know you have your Jacobs in there. So maybe you do go Dallas. Maybe that's the way you use it as a tiebreaker. Because like I said, it's 1-2, and I don't know exactly why I have the Niners other than I just love the defense. They've been so good all year. They're both facing backup quarterbacks. They're both on the road, which doesn't mean much to me. So maybe that is the kicker there, that you have Jacobs going, but I honestly don't love Jacobs this week, so I'm intrigued to know what other options you have. And then we got a super chat also coming in from K. Purnell. Thank you so much for your support here, Purnell. We got an interesting flex question here between Sutton, Pickens, Rachaad White, and Zach Moss. The first one I'm going to cross out is Zach Moss. I know he's the quote-unquote every down back. This is a hideous offense. I mean, we just saw Nick Foles put up 3 points, 3 interceptions, just disgusting overall. And I don't know if they're going to go back to him yet. I guess they haven't made a final decision, but whether it's Ryan, whether it's Ellinger, whether it's Foles, it's an awful team. It's a team that's punting to hopefully get to number 2 at this point so they can get their quarterback of the future. So I don't want nothing to do with that offense, including Zach Moss. So now this comes down to Sutton, Pickens, or Rachaad White. Honestly, I really like Rachaad White. It's tricky because Carolina, a top 10 matchup, they've actually been okay. But, lately it looks like right now we've had Leonard Fournette playing more snaps. He's seen more fantasy points in 3 straight weeks here. We did get 13 points from Rachaad White in half PPR settings last week with that touchdown coming in, but it's risky. Again, only 7 carries, 4 catches. That's a risk too. So now we got to look at these receivers and who we like, who we might not like. So I think I might cross off both running backs here. It's so tough to ever trust Sutton, trusting a Bronco at this stage of the game. Judy has clearly taken over. He's got 30% target share in 3 straight weeks. It seems to me like he is the definite guy. And yeah, sure, Sutton did have, 60 yards his first game back. Kansas City, they're going to be chasing points. They're going to need it. 9 overall fantasy points, 5 catches, 64 yards last week for Sutton. That wasn't bad. This is a really tricky one. I'm trying to weigh all the options and then give you a final verdict here. And then you look at George Pickens. Baltimore has really gotten tightened up here as a defense. They had a nice game, bless you. 57 yards and a touchdown, 5 catches last week against the Raiders. But Baltimore has been a much better secondary. Those matchups in the division, especially this late in the year, always seem to be slugfests. So after weighing all these options, K. Purnell, I'm crossing off Moss. The other 3 are all really neck and neck for me between White, Pickens, and Sutton. I am probably, if I had to pick one of them, I think I do roll White and just hope for the touchdown here. But it's a tough one. That's a really, really close one. I have Sutton just a spot ahead, Pickens, but again, I'm really worried about that team in general. Yes, they're going to need points. No team has given up more passing touchdowns either than the Chiefs defense, 31, 6 more than the next closest. So it is a good spot for Sutton. I'd say he has probably the highest ceiling of all these guys, but again, limited whenever you're with Russ. I think I'll lean White just because I don't know. I can't pull myself to root for a Bronco in this question, K. Purnell. Thank you again so much for the support. Let me know who you go. I think I'm leaning on White here, though. Brian, we got a $2 super chat. Thank you so much for your support, Brian. Malik Davis, Rachaad White, or Cordarrelle Patterson here. Oh, boy. We're rolling around in the mud again. As interesting as Malik Davis might be, again, rumored to get extensive work tonight, I can't put my fantasy title hopes on that. I'd rather go with somebody I've seen playing more often. And to me, You got Cordarrelle Patterson, who only played about 25-30% of the snaps last week. Tyler Algier really took over that backfield. So if I want to back from that offense, it's certainly Algier. I can't trust Patterson, even in a great matchup against Arizona this week. It seems like the big play spot for Patterson to maybe rip one off and do something. But to me, Algier is definitely taken over as that featured back. So I like White there. Just again, similar to Purnell, I've always been a White fan. He looks great every time he gets used. Yes, it's annoying that Lenny Fournette has gotten more involved, but this week, Fournette leaking the news about his foot, maybe that rubs the team the wrong way. Maybe that foot flares up and then suddenly get White featured a little bit more too. So for this one, I'm definitely going White. Purnell, yours was a little harder, K. Purnell. I like all those receiving options somewhat. I just don't like Moss of those. I'm going to go White for both of these first questions, though. Let's pray for a big one for Rachaad White there, fantasy folks. Thank you again so much for your support, guys, with those super chats. It's so greatly appreciated here, especially this time of the year as we wind down. Every little dollar helps us out so much, Wolfpack. So thanks again for your support. Anybody else out there that wants to cut the line, wants to support the show, you got a free, easy way to do that with the thumbs up button as well. Alrighty, Wolfpack, let's move on to our notes for the week. We'll hit my higher, lower Hail Mary. Again, the thumbs up does help us so greatly as we go. But for quarterbacks, we got Jalen Hurts actually practicing on Thursday. It doesn't sound like a full session. He was listed as limited, but did get some throws in first and most activity he's gotten since missing last week. It seems like there's a real shot he's going to be out there. If I'm the Eagles, I don't do that. I definitely give Minshew a shot to win the number 1 seed. Let Hurts just rest for 4 straight weeks, get himself fully healthy, because there are some rumblings that he might not be back to 100% the entire rest of the year. So I rest him as much as I can. Not up to me, and it sounds like he is really pushing to get out there. And of course, if Hurts is out there, you got to play him. He'll be a top 3 quarterback. Unless you had Mahomes and Hurts, you're playing Jalen Hurts this week as long as he's in. But of course, I highly recommend Minshew, who's only 31% rostered. If you have Hurts, you got to have both these guys, because Minshew himself would be a top 10 play. As we saw last week, 25 fantasy points in his absence. That's how good this line and these weapons are. I would absolutely go right back to the Minshew well if Hurts is ruled out. But for now, we're going to play it as if Hurts is playing, and I would be banking on him being in there. Tua did not practice on Thursday. I would be shocked if he ends up playing with all the concussion craziness that has gone over there in Miami. I mean, who knows when he got concussed in that game? It's just been an absolute mess there. So Tua not practicing. It does seem like Teddy Bridgewater will be the guy. He'll be a fringe, top 25 guy, Bridgewater, just given the weapons. He has shown an ability to sustain big numbers for at least Tyreek Hill, peppered him in his time on the field. So I'm fine with Tyreek Hill still being a top 3 wide receiver. No worries here with Teddy Bridgewater in the helmet. Maybe Bridgewater is streamable. Not the best of matchups against a middling Patriots secondary here. But if you're desperate for a quarterback, you might have to consider Teddy Bridgewater. Got a few names in higher, lower Hail Mary, though, that you might want to pay attention to. Last couple quarterback notes here are Lamar Jackson not practicing. It does seem like, again, he will be out. So Tyler Huntley, again, another one of these like low-end QB2s, quarterback 24 for me. An okay rushing threat, but he has not looked nearly as dynamic as he did last year. Anytime I've gone to the Huntley well, it has not paid off for me so far this year. So I would not recommend going that way. And then Derek Carr getting benched, stepping away from the team for the next 2 games. It will be Jarrett Stidham for the rest of the season. There is a clause that Derek Carr's contract becomes guaranteed if he gets hurt this year for the next season, and that seems to be the motivating factor to why they're not putting Carr out, because certainly they don't expect Jarrett Stidham to give themselves a better chance at winning. So it does seem very likely we'll see Carr in a new uniform next year. I'm hoping for, fantasy-wise, I kind of like going to the Jets if it's not Mike White there. Real-life-wise, that actually makes the Jets kind of scary to me. As a Patriots fan, I wouldn't love to see that, because as shitty as Carr has been at times this year, still think he is head and shoulders above anything we've seen the Jets roll out. I think that's a very complete team, just missing a quarterback. Maybe the Colts. They love old retread quarterbacks, so it seems like a logical fit if they don't get a top 2 pick and land one of the top guys in the draft. But either way, Stidham being in there, it makes this offense that already was kind of sputtering that much scarier. Makes me that much more nervous about Josh Jacobs. I know not a direct receiver, but I think this offense is going to get swallowed completely by the 49ers. It makes me a little bit more nervous for Adams. How do you sit Adams? You probably can't. I do think he'll continue to be the focal point, but he's had a few down weeks in a row too. So just another reason to be scared. And last 2 notes are Carson Wentz is going to be starting for the Browns. I actually don't hate. This is a preview higher, lower Hail Mary. Wentz is one of my Hail Marys this week. And I know you'd have to have some real big balls to be putting Carson Wentz into your lineup this time of the year. But I got a few stats we'll go over later that in 3 of his 5 starts so far this year, he's been a top 7 quarterback. It's been insane. He's got a defense in the Browns that are much better against the pass than the run, but they also give up a ton of big plays, and that's what Wentz is best, is slinging that ball down the field. So I actually do not hate Carson Wentz this week. If you are desperate for a quarterback, I put him above Huntley, put him above some of these other guys that we're talking about. Stidham, like, give me Wentz at that point. And then last note is Colt McCoy has been cleared. That's huge news. Not for McCoy. You're probably not using McCoy. Although against Atlanta, he's honestly not even the worst option. Some of the questions I've seen for you guys this week on quarterbacks, like maybe Colt McCoy would be an upgrade given what you guys are considering out there. But Atlanta matchup, not bad. The bigger news, though, is from the weapons there, like Hopkins. Whether it's whoever's manning the slots, always going to be a beast there. Marquise Brown gets a nice bump up. Running game can be more trusted. I mean, we've seen Connor smash really anyways, but especially with Colt McCoy under center. So big news for the entire offense that McCoy will be back this week. Moving on to running backs, Wolfpack. And do we get another? No, never mind. We got Sebastian did mention another question. I know you already supported us, Sebastian. So, let me find that one for you. You got double flex. You got Mike Williams, Ingram, Lockett on the bench. I mean, you got a bunch of good options. Akers, McKinnon. Honestly, I like Akers and McKinnon both above Josh Jacobs this week. Call me nuts, given that I get how good Josh Jacobs has been the MVP of fantasy. Legitimately, top 2 running back in round 7. So tough to bench it. I get it, but you got the hardest matchup in the possible world here with the 49ers defense. And then you got an offense that I think just got significantly worse, even though it was already pretty bad, that much worse with Jarrett Stidham behind the center. So I'm not touching Jacobs if I have options like Akers and McKinnon. If I have to go one or the other, I'd go McKinnon. I'd trust the Chiefs offense a bit more despite that 33 outburst from Akers. Good spot for him too. Because a Chargers run that's getting run all over. I like both of those guys a lot actually this week. But give me McKinnon above Josh Jacobs this week. Give me Akers above Josh Jacobs too if you prefer him. I'd honestly bench Jacobs for either of those guys. Thank you again, Sebastian. And we got Parnell. Thanks for being so thorough. Absolutely. You gave me the super chat. Thank you so much for doubling down and giving us another one. So thinking Pickens, Fournette scares me. Purdy or White. Pick one. So yeah, I get you. Fournette was heavily involved. I'm just kind of banking on maybe that foot thing flares up. Maybe the team's pissed that he's leaking information. Purdy or White. I don't know exactly what you mean there. So yeah, if you're leaning Pickens, absolutely. Like that's more than understandable. Coming off a 15-point day, Pickett has been his boy all year. I just am worried about that offense getting completely swallowed by a Baltimore team this week in a divisional matchup this time of the year. We see it time and time again, just physical, low-scoring, gross late December games. So I'm pretty scared of that game in general. The other one we got here, Watson, Dubs if Watson doesn't play, Dillon or Dotson. Oh, man, I'm a huge fan of Dotson this week. But if Watson's in, I can't bench him. Not in a game giving up the most points, the Minnesota Vikings to outside wide receivers. Watson's been an absolute beast. Before getting hurt last week, in the first half, he had 8 points. And that was with 2 potential touchdown opportunities. One just missed 50-yard bomb, and one just tripped at the goal line. Trust me, I had Watson, so that's why I know how closely I was following him. He was on the precipice of a huge day, as he has had humongous days all but 1 week since he's taken over as a starter. So if Watson's in, I have to play him. There's no doubt about it. And if he's out, I am probably leaning – good question here because I love Dillon. I love Dotson. And honestly, Dubs would be in a great spot if there's no Watson. Purnell, you're bringing some brutal questions tonight, man. This is a hard decision. I would probably – again, it depends on the scoring – but I would probably lean Dubs if Watson's out. That matchup is so good. We saw him just walk right into 83% route share last week as soon as Watson was out, right back to being that guy. The matchup would be so damn juicy. I'm going to talk about Dotson a little bit later tonight. It's my favorite Hail Mary of the week, though. So, Purnell, if you can, stick around. Maybe listen to that. Maybe that will give you a few more ammunition. And then you got Dillon, who scored touchdown in 4 straight weeks now. He's been a top 12 running back in 3 of those 4 and top 20 in all 4. So he's in a really good spot, too. Great options. That's why you're probably in the championship. It is really tough to sift through. I would, honestly, I typically, and maybe you're catching a trend here, I typically lean running backs in these questions. Dillon's going to get 15 to 20, and you got Aaron Jones kind of banged up. He's questionable. He's going to play, but he's a little bit dinged up too. So I think Dillon's a great bet to find the end zone. Probably the safest option here. This one, again, comes down to that idea, like, do you need ceiling or do you need the floor? Dillon's certainly the safest option here. All this, again, to say, if Watson's in, he's in. You don't question it anymore. You just put in Watson. Assuming he's out, it does become a much trickier question. Dillon would be the floor play. Honestly, Dotson would be the ceiling. We'll talk about him a little bit later and why, but I am a huge fan of him this week. Thanks again, Purnell, for those chats. And Sebastian, I see you're going 49ers. Let's go, baby. Fire him up. Again, don't be pissed off when the Cowboys have a huge night tonight. They're going to have a great defensive night. I just think the 49ers could be that much better this week. They get number 1 and 2, though, in the rankings. You can't go wrong. They're both going to have huge nights. Moving to the running back position, Wolfpack. 30 of you here with us. That thumbs up button would be so greatly appreciated. Kamara did not practice on Thursday. He's been complaining about his receiving, rightfully so, lack of receiving usage so far this year. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him just not play. Like, rest himself and just say, F this team, F this situation. I'm waiting until next year, in which case maybe he's going to get suspended. Who knows? His long-term outlook is definitely a little sketchy, certainly after this very disappointing season. I'm lower on him this week, too. So if he's in, I honestly think he could hit the pine for a lot of fantasy teams. Akers, McKinnon, guys I'd have above Kamara this week. James Conner, illness, is not practicing again on Thursday. He's not practiced yet this week. It's not like necessarily an injury here, just an illness. So my expectation is he's going to be out there. If he's out there, he's 100% locked into your lineups. A top 8 option for me this week. He's played over 95% of snaps in 3 straight weeks. I mean, the workhorse load, you don't see that from anybody. In the one snap he didn't play, Keontae Ingram fumbled it. So, like, you lock Connor into 95% of the touches, 95% of the snaps. It's an insane workload this guy's having. And he gets Atlanta, a great matchup, too. He's a top 8 play, assuming he's in, but something you got to certainly monitor as we head into the weekend. Damian Harrison is not practicing. He's been getting limited sessions in, and he does not practice today. So certainly after being out these last couple of weeks with limited practices, I don't expect Damian Harris in. Ramondre Stevenson show, baby. What an absolute monster he is. Continue to fire him up with zero hesitation. Gibson not practicing, Antonio, for the Commanders here Thursday, Wednesday. He's got a few different things in terms of foot, knees, sprains, tear. Who knows what's going on with the guy, but he seems to be definitely breaking down at this point. Cleveland is giving up the second most points to running backs, the most yards per carry allowed to running backs on the year as well. So if Gibson is out, I already like Robinson a ton as the lead running back here, but if Gibson's out, he'd be a fringe top 16, 15 play. Big fan of Brian Robinson right now, especially if Gibson misses the game. Yes, Jonathan Williams will get involved. He had 3 targets, just 1 for Robinson. You're going to get no receiving work here, but Robinson would be a great bet to find the end zone, to probably hit 100 yards on like 25, 30 carries, and a great matchup. So fire up Robinson if you have him, especially if Gibson misses this game. Last 2 running back notes. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards are quote-unquote not on a snap count, according to John Harbaugh. We saw Dobbins just kind of disappear in the second half of Saturday. So who knows exactly? He had 12 carries, 59 yards, and just didn't get seen from again. So a lot of speculation he was hurt, but it sounds like that wasn't the case. It wasn't a snap count thing. It just Edwards was running better, I guess. But that also makes me pretty nervous to go back to this well if they could just get sat and who knows at any minute what could happen with that backfield. So yeah, I like Dobbins in a good matchup, but not a must start in fantasy this weekend. The last note is Akers. Likely to be retained by the Rams, and why not the way this guy's showing up these last few weeks, but they are expected to draft a running back, given this is Akers' last year under contract. The teams had no hesitation, though, riding it out with him these last few weeks. I expect a monster game against a Chargers run D that is abysmal. So fire up Cam Akers this week. Something I did not find myself saying much this year. This is the week to do it, though. Moving on to the wide receiver position, Wolfpack, and again, that would be so greatly appreciated if you get that thumbs up, help us continue to grow. We'll be getting to those questions very shortly. I'm going to fire up the rest of this news, not a ton left here. And then we'll hit the high or lower Hail Mary onto all of your Week 17 championship questions, baby. Stephon Diggs did not practice on Thursday, but they are playing on Monday night. It seems like a kind of preliminary veterans rest type of thing. I'm not worried. If he doesn't practice tomorrow or heading into the weekend, then we could start to ring the alarm bells a little bit more, but I'm not too worried. We did see Deebo Samuel practice on Thursday as well. Limited fashion, but all week has been very meh reports on him. I would not expect him back. It's just really good to see ahead of the playoffs that he's getting warmed up again. Maybe we see him next week. But hey, we can't rule out the return. And if he's in, the Raiders are very bad against slot receivers where he often spends a lot of his time. So Debo would be very tough to sit if he does return this week. My guess is we do not see him. Tyler Lockett was expected to practice this week, but so far he has been out of practice with his finger injury. So we will see. He's a little risky here going against a Jets secondary that's been great against every receiver. But Lockett also was carrying a 6-touchdown streak heading into the injured game. So if he's in, it's going to be very tough to sit Tyler Lockett despite the hard matchup. As mentioned before with Watson, he has not practiced so far this week. He was expected to be limited today and then did not end up suiting up. Does not seem to bode well for his chances. If he's in, though, I am not benching him in this type of matchup. Vikings have been the worst team against outside receivers. It's a matchup we have continually told you to go and target, and it has rarely failed us. So definitely fire up Watson if he is in. And if he's out, Romeo Doubs is a great play this week and still out there in a ton of leagues. So go check for Romeo Doubs in your league, because if Watson's out, he's going to be a fringe Romeo Doubs top 30 play for me this week. And then the last two receiver notes, that probably don't matter. Claypool did. It is because Fields another weapon. Another reason I keep him in your top 3 quarterbacks this week. I know last week's dud certainly killed me. Yay, thanks, Fields. Maybe that's a common thread for all 4 of my teams getting eliminated. Justin Fields got me there, and then he continued. Don't want to think about it. So Claypool, though, being back will help him out. Chris Olave also limited in Thursday's practice. Seems like he's going to be ready to go. And honestly, I have a hard time sitting Chris Olave whenever he's out there. He's been so good. Wet the whistle real quick. Wolfpack, we were moving on to quickly a super chat and then the tight end news. We got Charlie, my man, tossing us a very, very generous super chat here, $9.99. Thank you so much, Charlie, for your kind words here and, of course, the support of the show. Another year, another finals, baby. Love to see it. I know we had like Allen Robinson on the team at one point, but you fought through, Charlie. You got yourself a fucking wagon over there every time we've chatted. I'm just impressed. You're a wolf. I'm glad we are able to help you, but man, you always are a monster, Charlie. So let's see what we got here. Contingencies with Diggs, AJB, Connor, all questionable. One, I think you're going to get all 3 in. I'd be the most worried, I guess, about Diggs. Connor is just an illness. He's going to be in. Brown limited today. He's in. He's just kind of getting the veterans rest. And I think that's what's up with Diggs. It's just, if this was a Sunday game, he probably would have been a limited practice. But we will obviously monitor it. And if they are out, let's rank some of these options for you. Foreman, don't trust him. As good as that run game looked, the guy's either 20 points or like 0, though. And that's a really big risk, especially against the Tampa Bay run D. It's been stellar all year. So I wouldn't probably trust Foreman here. I'd go to one of these receivers, and man, that's going to be a tough one. I keep saying it, but I really like Dotson. He's been better with Carson Wentz. And anyways, he's been better in general these last couple of weeks. Dubs, no Christian Watson. That's a great spot too. As we talked about, the best team in terms of points allowed to outside receivers, like it's a smash play. So to me, Kirk might be the lowest intrigue as despite being the most steady option all year of these 3 receivers. He had 1 catch for 11 yards last time out against Houston. It's been a tough matchup for running backs in passing games in general, just because they're so easy to run against. I think he might be the worst option. So I'd probably rank them Dotson, Dubs, Foreman, Kirk. But they're all very close, too. They'd all be a similar tier. I'm intrigued to know how you would rank them, Charlie. But again, I'd probably go Dotson, Dubs, Foreman, Kirk is how I lean for that one. And then we got another one coming in. Lucius, thank you so much for your support, brother. I know it's not the first time, and it is not unnoticed. So cheers. Thank you, man. Zeke or D. Cook? I'm still leaning Dalvin here. I know Zeke is in line for a monster workload, but again, the team continues to hype up Malik Davis. They're talking a lot about, I think they're treating this as like, let's get our points early. Let's rest our starters as well. Wouldn't be shocked at all if we actually get a limited workload from Zeke, despite looking like he's in a smash spot. And the Titans' run D has been really tight. I do think Zeke probably a great bet to find the end zone, though. He's safe. But if my other option is Dalvin Cook, I know Cook has not been what we expect him to be throughout the year, but Green Bay is an abysmal run D. We've talked about a few matchups you want to target. Green Bay run D is 100% one of them. And run D VOA by Football Outsiders, second to last. 4th in terms of points allowed to backs. A great spot for Dalvin Cook. I think this is definitely a feasting type of Dalvin Cook day. The game has a nice, 3rd highest over-under of the weekend. Give me Dalvin Cook in that one. Dak or Hurts? I mean, if Hurts is in, it's definitely Hurts. If you're not a Minshew owner, that makes it trickier. I'd like to know, Lucius, who else is out there for you? Like, who would be your backup plan? because it looks like Hurts is trending towards in. And if he's in, he's definitely your guy. But you'd be passing up on Dak in a really, really good spot tonight. I mean, Tennessee, top 3 in terms of points allowed to quarterbacks, the most big plays given up in the league. CeeDee Lamb could go bananas, even if he plays just one half. So it'd be really hard to not play Dak if your other backup options aren't great. I'd like to wait it out for Hurts. I think he's certainly the play if we know he's in. But that's a big risk if you don't have Minshew. So I'd like to know who else you have, Lucius, as a potential backup. But right now, my gut's kind of saying just get Dak in and not worry about it. But we've also – the tale as old as fantasy time, like especially if Dak only plays a half tonight, right? Puts up 12, 15 fantasy points, and then we see Hurts come in and put up his usual 35 and you lose. Like we've all seen there. We've all been that. Oh, man. My gut's saying like get Dak in and play it safe. But if you have a even halfway decent potential backup option, I do think Hurts is waiting it out for. So let me know, Lucius, what you think. Alrighty, Wolfpack. Thanks again so much for those super chats. It's so greatly appreciated. It goes such a long way, especially again as we wrap up this season. Week 17 tight end news. It's not much, but Hurst is expected to return for your Bengals, practicing full on Thursday. There's worse spots to go after for tight ends. That game should be a shootout. Kylan Granson is not practicing on Thursday. It does make Jelani Woods a very intriguing Hail Mary. He was tied for the team lead with targets. Foles has consistently hit his tight ends, and Jelani Woods is just a beast. That guy is going to be a very special talent down the line. I would be so pumped to have him in Dynasty right now if you did. He's going to develop into something good. But it's going to be tough to trust him with Nick Foles, even though Foles does like his tight ends. But if you're desperate for a Hail Mary at the position and like Fant is gone, then maybe you can go to, again, Jelani Woods. And then last but not least, Will Dissly has been placed on injured reserve. And that's why I bring up Noah Fant. It's because he's going to be the every down guy. Weird usage last week. We saw Luke, whatever his name is, Wilson maybe. I don't even know who their fifth string tight end is. Playing more snaps than Fant, but Fant was also banged up heading the game. He's been practicing more regularly this week. So Noah Fant, whenever he's gotten used these last couple of weeks, has been in a good spot, and it's a better matchup for tight ends than wide receivers for the Seahawks. A tough pass to you overall in general. So I don't love going to Fant, but this certainly does make him a little bit more streamer viable. Alrighty, Wolfpack. That does wrap up all of our news for week 17 so far. As always, me and my boy CJ will be updating all of that with your actives, your inactives, Sunday morning, 10:45, the final Sunday sit start show of the year, baby. I can't believe it that we're already here in week 17. We'll certainly have a great offseason. I've already mapped out all the content I want to do in this next month. So we'll be with you plenty. Wolfpack, we're not just going to completely abandon you, but it's going to be a just different schedule. Obviously, not the every day, every 4 times a week type of thing. But so pumped to, again, be able to help you get these titles. I want to live through all of you as you get your titles this weekend. Let's move on to higher, lower Hail Mary for week 17. Who am I sitting? Who am I starting? And who am I willing to take a stream on? Starting at the quarterback position, Wolfpack. I am higher on Kirk Cousins. I'm surprised that the experts aren't higher on him. I have him at quarterback 7. I'm 3 spots above the ECR. His finishes these last 3 weeks, 25, 34, and 24 fantasy points. The QB 5, 3, and 6. Now it's a Green Bay defense that, yes, much more of a run funnel than a pass funnel, but this is the second highest over-under on the weekend, 45.5 total points. Cousins has just been absolutely slinging the rock, and no surprise, we've seen Justin Jefferson going absolutely bananas. He's consistently going to be your number 1 wide receiver, which means Cousins should consistently be in your top 6 conversation, which is exactly where I have him in a game that I expect to shoot out this weekend. Gotten a lot of questions about Cousins. I'm not really sure why. Lock him into your lineup. I have him above Goff, above Trevor Lawrence, who he is ranked below right now in the ECR. I mean, that makes no sense to me. In terms of another guy I'm higher on, if you don't have Cousins as an option, I've been really riding this Brock Purdy train, and I know the ceiling isn't great, but he's been quarterback 8, 14, and 13 these last few weeks. I have him at quarterback 12, 3 spots above the ECR, because he's been having those solid productive totals, and now he gets the best matchup he's faced all year. The Raiders are giving up the 5th most points to quarterbacks, top 3 across their last 5 games. It's a really nice spot for Brock Purdy. They can be run all over too, so it could just be a McCaffrey 30-point bonanza and leaving minimal scraps for Brock Purdy to eat after that. But he's also had 2 touchdowns every single time he's been on the field. I think the floor is pretty nice and sturdy, and this could be the ceiling week where we see him crack that top 7 or 8. So I'm definitely a fan of streaming Brock Purdy if you have him. Again, quarterback 12 on the week. In terms of lower at the quarterback position, it's frequently on here. It's Daniel Jones. And I know Campanelli's probably like, F off, Giants fan. But man, he's had no games. He had only 2 games on the year above 300 passing yards. So he's really you're banking on the rushing production here. And Indy, they're better to run on than pass on. So maybe that ends up working out okay for him. But we've seen him in the top 12 of quarterbacks only 4 times on the season. So you're really banking on something that just has not happened very often. And Indy is as much of a run funnel as they are. Great spot for Saquon. I think Saquon's going to have a monster day. It's not a team that you can throw on easily. We just saw Justin Herbert held to under 7 fantasy points. Piece of shit. Definitely ruined a few semifinals for me. If it wasn't Justin Fields, it was Justin Herbert who ruined my season. But we're not going to talk about that this week. Daniel Jones, though, if Herbert can't get it done against that defense, I don't believe that Daniel Jones is a great viable threat. He's ranked as a top 12 quarterback right now. I'd rather have Purdy. I'd rather have Minshew if Jalen Hurts is out. There's just other teams I'd like to go against, other games I'd like to target. That seems like a hideous game where they're not going to need a lot of points. And we've seen the Giants, when they don't need a lot of points, they just kind of burn that clock, get in, get out. And that's been a winning formula for them. Solid formula, but not a great fantasy formula. This feels like one of those like quarterback 19, quarterback 20 weeks for Daniel Jones, not those rare top 12 weeks. We've, again, only seen it 4 times on the season. And then my Hail Mary, if Brock Purdy's not there, he's out there in over 50% of leagues. So definitely my number 1. Minshew, my number 2 at 30% rostered. But in the off chance Minshew is not playing, one, I got to shout out Mike White, who's 20% rostered right now. I know it's only 3 games. I know it's a small sample size, but he averages the most passing yards in the NFL across his starts this year, more than Patrick Mahomes. Crazy, wild stat, but it's the truth. The Jets, when anybody has not named Zach Wilson, has been the quarterback, are averaging the most pass attempts and most passing yards in the league across their last 2 seasons. Seattle, a much better pass defense than run defense, but Mike White, my top 15 quarterback conversation this week. He's out there in a bunch of leagues. He would be the first Hail Mary I'll toss out there. The next one, though, would be Sam Darnold against Tampa Bay. This Panthers team, yes, far more run heavy. That's what they want to do. But Darnold has been okay, certainly when he has been needed. 22 fantasy points last week, the quarterback 8 on the week. It's been okay other than that, 12, 13, 17. He's kind of like a less sexy Brock Purdy, if you will. I mean, Brock Purdy's not overly sexy himself, but he hasn't finished below the top 20 quarterbacks on the season. So I have him ranked inside my top 20, and I'm plus 5 ECR. He's only 7% rostered. That's a guy you can go to. But if you really want to roll the dice, because the ceiling is certainly capped with, again, Sam Darnold, you're kind of relying on a rushing touchdown to happen. See, he's like the poor man's Daniel Jones, though. Like, I honestly do not view him and Daniel Jones all that much more differently in fantasy. It's, again, I want to be very clear about that. In fantasy. And that's a huge game, too, for the Panthers. Divisional showdown. I could see him running, he's great at those read options. There was a point last year he led Sam Darnold the NFL in rushing touchdowns. So would not be shocked at all to see him run one in and it'd be a nice solid top 20 option. If you're in 2 QB leagues, you're desperate for that. But I did want to shout out again, Carson Wentz, who only made 6 starts on the year, but 3 of those starts were inside the top 5 quarterbacks, 30, 29, and 23 points. I know it's sickening. I know it's scary, but when he's had decent matchups, he's done well. Cleveland is not the best of matchups. It's right middle of the road, but they are very susceptible to the big play. I think they've given up the 3rd most passing big plays on the year. Much, much better of a pass defense than a run defense, and a lot similar to a lot of these teams we're talking about. But Wentz, he has the blow up again, 39, 29, and 23. 8% rostered. You're not going to find a quarterback with that type of ceiling on your waiver wire. So if you're an underdog in a super flex league and you're just like, fuck it, YOLO, let's go, Carson Wentz could be your guy this week. Man, that's a famous last words if I've ever heard him. Carson Wentz could be your guy. But I just want to shout out the ceiling, top 5 in half of his games so far this year. Moving to the running back position for my higher, lower Hail Marys. Who am I starting, streaming, and taking Hail Marys on and sitting, of course, as well. We got to start with Jerick McKinnon and Cam Akers. We got them from Sebastian Alexander, and I'm glad you asked about them because I'm much higher than the ECR on them both. McKinnon I have as my running back 10, plus 9 ECR. I can't believe he's outside a fringe top 20 guy right now. McKinnon has sneakily taken over. I know Pacheco, the early down guy, sees more carries on a week-to-week basis, but McKinnon has played well over half the snaps throughout the entire season. He's been the main guy. Then you remove CEH, and he really started to get cooking. 13, 29, 30, and 11 points across his last 4 games. 2 of those performances, he was the number 1 running back of the week. And now he's a fringe top 20 guy. Denver is certainly far more of a run funnel than a pass funnel. And I like this spot for McKinnon, who has not been outside your top 20 PPR running backs in now 4 straight weeks. If you go across the last 4 weeks where he ranks in all fantasy running backs, he's a top 4 guy. So McKinnon, I'm not putting him on my bench. I feel nice, safe, and sturdy. Give me him again over Josh Jacobs this week, and we'll talk about why a little bit with Josh Jacobs, why I'm lower. But as mentioned, I'm also higher on Cam Akers, who's become 70% or more of the snaps for 4 straight weeks, and his finishes since reemerging in this backfield: 19, 9, 12, and 34 fantasy running back, 7, 23, 23, and then last week, the number 1 running back in semifinals. Probably didn't help a ton of people out. I imagine a lot of you had him on the bench, and it's Cam Akers in a weird year. I wouldn't have blamed you. But now, fool me once, I got to go to the well, is all I'm going to get at, because the Chargers is a top 5 running back matchup on the season. Akers is absolutely cooking. 118 yards, 3 touchdowns last week, monopolized the receiving work too, only had 2 catches for 29 yards, but was essentially an every down player throughout the game. I like Cam Akers this week. I'm going to it. I'm going to the well. Another famous last word there. The last running back, though, got a bunch of questions on him, so I do want to shout him out as somebody I want to toss right back into my lineups. That's Zonovan Knight. Since similar to it's kind of lesser noticed, all the splits you see. Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson versus Mike White. Elijah Moore with Zach Wilson versus Mike White. And it's dreadful. 19 points for Garrett Wilson versus 8 points, otherwise. It's awful, but not enough people are acknowledging just how much better Zonovan Knight is. And it makes sense. The entire offense moves the ball at such a better clip for the Jets when you have Mike White under center. In fact, he went 12, 14, and 15 half PPR points, Zonovan Knight, in the 3 games that Mike White. That was, again, 14, 15, and 17 carries. He was a top 15 running back for 2 of those 3 weeks and top 20 and all the others. So I think Zonovan Knight right back into this conversation as a starter, because he also gets Seattle the 2nd most points allowed to the running back position. So a great spot to fire up Zonovan Knight into your lineups. I'm putting him back in there. And then moving forward with the running back position, and I get it. And somebody commented in right away. Knight's put up 2 points the last 2 total games. I mean, do you remember who the quarterback was, though? That's what I'm alluding to. If it was Zach Wilson, I wouldn't touch Zonovan Knight with a 10-foot pole. Ultimately, he averages 2.3 points per game with Zach Wilson. He averages 15.5 PPR points with any other quarterback not named Zach Wilson. So I'm into Zonovan Knight. I'm going back to the well despite the underwhelming last couple weeks. In terms of who I'm lower on at the running back position, I already mentioned him. I've talked about it a few times here, and that's Josh Jacobs. Even if Derek Carr was at quarterback, we've seen him start to a little bit taper off these last couple weeks. 12 and then 6 points, 30 running back 39, running back 20 in those last 2 weeks. Very few running backs have gone this many 30-point games on the season. So I know how terrifying it would be to bench Josh Jacobs, and I totally understand if you're sitting there like, he got me here, I'm not benching him, I'd lose the respect of my fantasy locker room. I understand all of that. I feel you. I don't have Josh Jacobs in many leagues. Maybe that's why I'm not in a lot of my finals this year. But I would just have a very, very difficult time against a 49ers run D that has not given up 60 yards to a single player on the ground. Then you have Jarrett Stidham coming in. So this offense is going to be that much worse, that much more inefficient. Wouldn't at all to see them get completely blanked and not score a touchdown. Off his worst game of the year, now in the worst possible matchup with the worst possible quarterback situation. To me, everything's coming up negative here for Josh Jacobs. And if I had a good enough option, like McKinnon, like Zeke tonight, like maybe even Cam Akers, I would bench Josh Jacobs, and that's terrifying. And then the other guy I'm lower on, as I mentioned earlier, was Alvin Kamara against Philadelphia. One, it's a bottom 7 matchup for running backs. And I know against Cleveland in the weather, he kind of came back, Kamara, 20 carries, 76 yards and a touchdown. But the lack of receiving work has been absolutely mind-boggling. Like David Johnson playing more passing down snaps the last 2 weeks. Kamara complaining about it. Maybe the squeaky wheel gets greased, or maybe he gets phased out. He's already been banged up this week, has not been practicing with a quadricep injury. And on the season, he's only scored touchdowns in 2 of his games. So ultimately, I'm not a huge fan of Alvin Kamara this week. He would be finding my bench. And last but not least, your Hail Marys at the running back position are for me. Hold on, I just lost my place in the thing here. Haskins and Malik, kind of the guys tonight, the ones that are stepping into random work. But if you're really desperate and you miss out on those two guys tonight, Chuba Hubbard, under 40% roster right now, likely out in leagues. If you're watching the show and you're in your championship, you probably don't need to rely on Chuba Hubbard, but he did start last week. He ran for over 120 yards on only just 12 carries, so looked really efficient. He's looked really, really good in general these past few weeks. Equal snap share with Donta Foreman, but certainly the more viable guy if they get down, so less game flow dependent than Donta Foreman, just as productive and explosive in the run game these last few weeks. I'm a big fan of Chuba Hubbard if you're desperate. Alrighty, Wolfpack. We'll hit the receivers. I'm going to skip tight ends just because we have a lot of questions and I want to make sure I get to them all before kickoff, but I do want to hit the receiver position in 5 minutes or less. Let's dive into who I'm higher, lower, and throwing Hail Marys at for the wide receiver position. I'm not worried at all about DeAndre Hopkins because we got Colt McCoy back this coming week. Yes, 10 targets, 1 catch. All that's terrifying, and maybe you're not even worried about Hopkins in your finals because you got knocked out after that absolute dud. But Colt McCoy has religiously peppered DeAndre Hopkins. In fact, across his Cardinals career, in the 7 games with Colt McCoy, Hopkins averages 16.7 fantasy points per game compared to 15.8 without him. He's been better with Colt McCoy, is all that tells you. So at minimum, you have no reason to be worried. Fire him up. I'm 6 spots above the ECR when I have Hopkins at my wide receiver 9. Plus, you get the Atlanta matchup, a top 3 matchup for receivers. Everything's coming up in spades for a big Hopkins game. You'd be a fool to bench him despite last week's despicable stud performance. You got Garrett Wilson in terms of who I'm lower on this week, and he's my wide receiver 19, so probably in lineups, but he's ranked right now as a fringe top 12 guy. And yes, I understand with Mike White, 24 and 20 points in 2 of those starts, but where I look more is that Bills game where he had 11 points, the wide receiver 29. Abysmal, not by any means. Very useful, 11 points. That's fine. But it's more of a fringe wide receiver 3 at that point. He's now getting matched up with a Seattle defense, giving up the second fewest points to wide receivers. But in general, number 1 wide receivers, Tariq Woolen has been shadowing him, and he's been unbelievable as a rookie. Sure, Sauce Gardner, insane for the Jets. But if there was any other guy in that conversation for rookie of the year defensively, it's Tariq Woolen. He's been absolutely insane, and he's been locking down number 1s all year. So I would just be a little skeptical of treating Wilson as this fringe top 12 guy. And they consider him a top 20 guy, but at the bottom end of that rather than the top end. So in shallower leagues, I don't think he's the absolute must start he's being made out to be. I'm also, though, in terms of actually benching, probably not benching Garrett Wilson, but I'm a little bit hesitant to put Mike Evans into my line. My wide receiver 32, that's 12 spots below the ECR. He has not been a top 32 wide receiver since week 9. Wide receiver 34, 45, 75, 45, 49, 32, 57. Abysmal. It's been awful. And I know as soon as you bench him, your championship week, right? The perfect time to bench him for him to erupt for 35 points. But if you'd been benching him this whole time, you'd be much better off for it. So Mike Evans, finding my pine. I do not want him in my lineup. I met Horn maybe shadowing him. In terms of my Hail Mary, a guy we've gotten a bunch of questions on, and that's Jahan Dotson. Love the guy. In his last 3 games, 14, 19, and 17 fantasy points. So no duds in there. Solid floor baked in, especially now that he's got Carson Wentz coming back, who he's averaged 14.3 points per game in the 5 games together. He put up 17, 16, 2, and 12 points in those first 4 starts. And then last week calls in that touchdown from Carson Wentz as well. They have a nice special rapport. It's been bad news for Terry McLaurin to have Carson Wentz in the lineup, but it's been great news for Dotson and Curtis Samuel. And that is my Hail Mary. Like I said, I'm going to skip tight ends because we have a bunch of questions. It's already close to 8 p.m. So Wolfpack, I want to make sure to hit everything we can before kickoff. Starting with our call-in, Mr. Campanelli. How are we, brother? Ooh, I think, are you muted, Campanelli? You are. You got to unmute yourself.
Sorry, Wolf. How you doing tonight?
Very good, very good. How are you, brother?
So I'm stressing out. I have Schultz or Ingram. It's been my tight end dilemma for 4 days or since Tuesday.
I remember we talked about it on Tuesday. I still want to lean Schultz because of the matchup, but I get how that the game could be so uncompetitive that they just take their foot off the gas and he just ends up with like a 4-catch, 30-yard day, and then they don't need any more than that. So honestly, more I think about, I'd probably just go Ingram. If I'm in your position, those duds on Thursday Night Football linger and hurt worse too. You get pisses you off ahead of the weekend. Like you don't want to go into your new year pissed off because Schultz screwed you on Thursday Night Football. I'd have the hope of, because even if Schultz has a big game, Ingram could come back with an even bigger game. That's how he's been unbelievable these last few weeks.
I'm playing against CeeDee Lamb, so I kind of want to see how bad he hurts me.
Oh, he's gonna hurt you.
But
yeah, there's no question arguing that you're hurt. But good luck on that front. But I'd ultimately go Evan Ingram. I'm gonna actually adjust my rankings as we talk here because I do have Ingram higher. I feel that way. I'll make sure my rankings reflect it.
And just to let you know, you have a super chat from Omar F.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the heads up, David. Best of luck. And I'm sure we'll be chatting on Sunday.
Yes.
Cheers, my man. Thank you so much. As always, making the call-ins every single week. Always love having a fan like you. And Omar, consistently bringing the super chats, man. Your support is not unnoticed. It's so appreciated. And hell yeah, 4 title games. I get to live through you, Omar. As I said, I was in 4 semifinals out of 6 leagues and dropped them all. Not a fun semifinal weekend for me, that's for damn sure. But you made your title games, and I am so pumped. It's not thanks to me. You're a wolf yourself, Omar. You consistently wreck it. But I am glad to hear that you're there. So would you play Haskins over White or Fournette? I wouldn't. I know we have a bunch of questions on Haskins in there. And while the volume's going to be there, I think 20 touches is in play tonight. One, the matchup's not great. Dallas, number 3 in terms of points allowed to backs, like in terms of bad. They're tough matchup, number 29. So I don't like that. They're not a great run D, it doesn't seem either, but they just don't give up touchdowns where it counts. And that's really where Haskins would get it done, is a touchdown. So he's going to get 20 to 25 touches, but the matchup's tough. And what's even scarier for me, if Tannehill was at quarterback, I'd probably have Haskins as a fringe top 20 guy. But right now, not only is Malik Willis benched, we're going to some creature named Josh Dobbs. The guy has not made a single NFL start. The only action he saw, he threw 45 yards and an interception. Would not be shocked at all if this offense gains less than 100 total yards tonight and doesn't score. It's terrifying. So I do not want to put my faith in this offense at all. Maybe he does score. Maybe he gets a bunch of action. But to me, that's not something I want to trust at all. So I'm going to probably bench him for one of these backs. To me, I think Fournette's a little bit safer. He's been playing more of the snaps, more involved as a receiver, just looking good despite this foot injury. If I had the choice between the two backs, I would go Fournette. And it's a big divisional game. In the big games, I think they go lean on their veteran a little bit more. So I'm going to go Fournette there. As well as I do, though, Omar, there's been some times I've told you just avoid the Thursday night guy, and then we sit here and watch him. I'll see your DM in an hour like, fuck, I benched this guy, and here's a touchdown. We haven't had great luck benching our Thursday night guys, Omar. So I'm steering you away from Haskins in that offense. I don't want any piece of it. Maybe Dobbs shucks the world and is just this insane new life and engine to the offense, but I'm not expecting that at all. I'd like to wash my hands of any type of Titans tonight, not worry about it. And you have good enough options in Fournette and White. I like them both over Haskins, but especially Fournette. And I see another question like similar. I want to address these like Haskins questions. Moss or Haskins? Give me. I mean, that's the situation where I might actually go to Haskins. I guess I feel better about Moss, like in terms of we know the snap share, because we're assuming Haskins is the guy, but can we really confidently say that? At least Moss has like a great matchup in terms of the Giants. They've been, if anybody's watching any Giants football, they get battered on the ground week in and week out. So if I had like these options, I'd lean with the matchup and I'd go Moss. I'd lean with the guy that at least we know, like last week he got 8 points. You're probably going to get like 8 or so from Moss, and that's the cap ceiling. So if you want the blow up, maybe Haskins gets 2. I like the player. I liked him in college. Big Blue fan. Like I want to believe in him. And like I said, if Tannehill's at quarterback, I'd probably have him as a fringe top 25 guy. But right now, I don't know that his offense will move the ball at all. So I'd go Moss in this one. And then I get like another Haskins question. I know I usually go in order, but kickoff's coming. I want to address some of these as I see them on my radar. Algier Hassan, it's 100% Algier for me. This one's like an easy one. I have Algier as a top 20 guy this week. Took over 70% of the touches, 70% of the snaps last week. Now you get a beautiful matchup against Arizona. Like I think Algier is an absolute hammer play. So that kind of gives you guys all out there a measuring bar for Haskins. I'll continue to mow through the rest of the questions. Thank you so much for the support, Omar. But yeah, I'm going to go to the Bucs situation there. I'm going to go to Fournette. Let's now hit the mailbag Wolfpack. And it is 8:05, so I'm going to go real quick. So that way I can try to get through as many of these. But again, if you want to jump the line, you want more in-depth answer, please do consider that super chat button. We'll make sure to take our time and prioritize anybody that is willing to support the site of that nature. And of course, check out shop.roaststreetjournal.com. Our new merch store has launched. If you want to support your boys, we'd love to get that site going. Word of mouth, spread the word, spread the love for the Rose Street Journal. We've got your title game. Help us out as well. Championship, baby. Let's go. Let's go get those W's indeed. We already got that defense. Travis Mason, happy last Thursday night, my man. Absolutely. Been loyal. Seen you here so many times. Half PPR, need one flex. White, Knight, Moss, Haskins, Tony, Waiver, and Pray. I'm going to go Knight here. I talked about him earlier. Good matchup. Again, 15.5 points per game with White. I like it. DPJ, Jahan, Hassan, PPR. I love Jahan Dotson. We talked about him earlier. Rewind if you want more, but I'm a huge fan of Jahan Dotson this week. I know. Maybe we'll make Thursday just a regular show somehow, Campanelli, big board update, whatever it is. I'll miss you guys too much to not be going live. Evans, Lazard, Chark, and Dotson. I love Dotson. I like Dotson. I mean, if Watson's out, this definitely becomes a lot tighter, a lot closer. Lazard would assume that number one role in a great matchup, but I like Dotson as of right now. Magic Mike, credible season indeed. Let's go, brother. Real pickle for the flex. Do I start Malik Davis, Haskins, Gabe Davis, White, or Pickens? I think I avoid the backs tonight. I mean, if one blows up and has that miracle guy, it wouldn't shock me. This is always what happens, but I trust either. It's two good run defenses and a really bad pass defense for the Titans. So I'm going to go neither of those backs. I think I want to lean on Gabe Davis, a shootout style game, Monday Night Football, everything on the line. This feels like a playoff game with the number one seed potentially on the line here. This is where the stars show up. I'm going to go Gabe Davis there. I'm not that into Malik Davis. I'd go Rashad White, Brian. Let's go Josh Campa. Lost Tua. McCoy or Wentz? I'm going to go Wentz. I'm just going to fire up the highest upside option there, and that is Wentz. Mr. 305, I see, hitting us with a super chat as you regularly do. It is so greatly appreciated, Mr. 305. Mr. Trey Cinco, my boy. James Cook or Haskins, half PPR. I'm leaning Cook there. Big Monday night. Cook coming off one of his best professional games. I know Singletary played really well there, and that's what makes you a little nervous. Singletary's kind of the guy in closer games. They just trust him. He's a better pass protector. But Cook has looked so much more dynamic than him, that I'm going to go Cook. I don't want anything to do with this gross situation. I don't trust any of these guys. Like in the Titans offense, I could see them putting up 0 points, putting up less than 100 total yards. There is some upside to Haskins. There really is. He's going to get 20 touches, but it's just disgusting to me. I can't go Haskins tonight. I'd rather go for the Bills. Both are questionable plays. Give me the one on the Bills offense. Plus, you have that Monday night hope factor. Like, it shouldn't be our live decider, but sometimes that's what it comes down to here. All righty. Thank you again so much for the super chat, Mr. 305. You've done it plenty. It is facing such a fickle mistress. So cruel indeed. It's an up and down dance we lead with our baby here, but you wouldn't trade it for the world, even when it leaves you distraught and broken. In the finals, it was ugly, but I got there. Hell yeah, dude. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be pretty as long as you get there. Hopkins, like I mentioned, I'd definitely go Hopkins. I wouldn't go any of these other guys over him. So Hopkins is definitely a play with Colt McCoy back. It's absolutely Hopkins there. So again, I get that confusion, Sebastian. I go 49ers. I honestly bench Josh Jacobs. Huge risk. And again, your fantasy locker room could revolt against you, but I love McKinnon. I mean, he's been the hot hand, and I also like Cam Akers in a really good matchup. All right, Ian, start 2 PPR, deep league. Hassan Haskins, Gage, or White. So this is one where I would just, at this point, why not roll the dice on Haskins? I'm going to go Haskins and Rashad White for right now. If Julio's ruled out, maybe you can toss Gage in the conversation. But, Ian, this is one where I'm going to get Hassan Haskins fired up. Henry and Pollard, but that means I got nothing with Jay. Yeah, I guess that balances out for you, right? Choose 3. Kamara, Waddle, Swift, McKinnon, Zeke, Godwin. I'm going to go McKinnon, Zeke, and Waddle, I think, Edward. Kamara in the conversation with Waddle, but for right now, I go those 3. Haskins, Lazard, or Moss. I like Lazard there, Jonathan Torres. Haskins, Cooks, or Rashad. I'm going to go Rashad there, Raider Trader. I'm going to go Rashad over Haskins. I don't trust him, Brian. I don't. So Akers, McKinnon, we talked about that one already for you. Malik Davis, White, or Patterson. Oh, Brian, you super chatted something earlier. We did Rashad White there. Josh Jacobs, do I have – I go McKinnon, honestly, Adrian, over Josh Jacobs. I do. Big risk, I know. Need an RB2 and a flex. Got Swift, Algier, DJ Moore. I like Algier and DJ Moore there. I don't trust DeAndre Swift right now. Also have Andrews or Njoku. I got to go Andrews at that point. Like, yeah, you fire that up, Danny. Zay Jones, Ayuk, or Sutton. I'm going to go Ayuk, Giuseppe. Purdy or Mike White. I like Purdy there. Kamara or Garrett Wilson. I'm going to go, I think Garrett Wilson, Bleak Deacon. Got Jags D. No, they're good. I think that's a good spot against Houston. Freiermuth or Everett. I'm going to go Freiermuth for sure, Giuseppe. And then I'd go Zay Jones there if Kamara sits. Absolutely. Good luck, Sebastian. I hope it's the right call. I'm going to go Zeke over Josh Jacobs, Jerry. And then Haskins tonight, Rashad White or James Cook. I'm starting Fournette. I'm going to go James Cook there. I don't trust Haskins. I don't. It's just I don't want my season on the line with Haskins. Maybe he gets the end zone. I'm worried. Yeah, if you're leaning James Cook, yeah, I'd go James. Oh, you're helping him up. I did not say yes to Haskins, Jordan. I'm not a fan of Haskins. We'll see what happens, but I'm a fan of the player. Again, 20 touches coming. I think the offense is going to be absolutely abysmal tonight. So we'll see. As a roll of the dice play, he could blow up and be a hero, but it's not. I'm not putting Haskins in if I had to. Looks like we have another super chat. Thank you, Sebastian, coming in again. So I'll pause the rapid fire and get to this one. Should I start Dak or go? You start Dak. I like the upside of Wentz, but I'm not betting Dak for it. Like Wentz is a desperation type if you need it. So no, I would absolutely 110% go Dak. Thank you again for the support. I'm there. Sup, Wolf. Got to roll with Purdy. I like Purdy as a backup, but you might get Hurts. You can definitely get your 2 touchdowns again, but I think Hurts might end up playing. Yeah, let's go, Sebastian. Jags or Chargers D. I would probably go Chargers there, especially with Bosa coming back. Any worries about Stevenson? No. I don't think Bill's going to make a statement. In fact, Bill went out of his way to praise Stevenson and say ball security has not been an issue all year. Watson's a no-go. Dubs over. I still like Dotson a lot this week. I keep going there. I need to decide if I play Haskins after him as Jamal. I'm going to go Jamal Williams. It's a bad run D. I'm just going to skip out, again, like you said, on all Tennessee. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm going to go Jamal Williams there. Olave or Dubs? I'm going to go Olave most likely there, Austin, especially if you have Lazard already in there. And you play Devontae. Kittle is an absolute god niner. Seriously, my God. The Joker. Stevenson, Montgomery, Algier, Foreman, White. I'm going to go Algier and Stevenson there. Joker. Play Devontae, yeah, always. Dallas, Pickens, White, Purdy, White. I can't read that one. I have no idea what's going on there. Purnell. Haskins or Moss is what I'm guessing you're trying to say. I'm going to go Moss there. Just a better matchup. Both suck as players, or whether both are in tough situations in offenses. I do like Haskins as a player more than Moss, but I'm going to go there. And as we talked about, I think you can trust him. I do, because Mike White and him, 15.5 points, top 15 in 2 of his 3 games, top 20 in the others. So I like Zonovan Knight this week. I would go Zonovan and AJ Dillon. I'm not playing Haskins over those guys, Omar. I guess I would not play Haskins over Dillon. You might be higher on him. You trust your gut. Always do it. I've not been right for you, Omar, on Thursday nights quite often. But I'm going to go Dillon, and I'm going to go Knight over Haskins. I am just worried about how hideous this offense might be. Algier or Hassan? Definitely Algier. McKinnon, Walker, or Hopkins? I like McKinnon, honestly. I really like Hopkins going back to that as well this week. Haskins or Moss, rather. I'm going to go Moss. Again, don't like it. Jacobs, Brian Robinson, White. It's definitely Brian. Probably Jacobs, but if Gibson sits, I think Robinson honestly might be better. My boy, Jay Cook or Haskins. I'm going to go Jay Cook. Again, I think we super chatted us that one already. Thanks again for the support. But yeah, I just don't trust Haskins. I'm worried about that offense. I hope I don't make you guys miss a fantasy gold mine tonight, but I'm worried. Dubs, whatever that creature is at quarterback, Dubs, 45 yards and an interception is NFL time, 1 week with the team. I'm not expecting a lot from this Tennessee offense. I'm glad. Hey, great to find you. Last week of the year, dog, who spoke. But that does remind us, anybody that's new around here, if you enjoy the show, please do consider subscribing. Even though it's late in the year, we'll be doing tons of 2023 content right away to feed and breed all those wolves early on. We will not be abandoning you. So please do consider subbing if you're new to the show. I think I answered that one a million times, Team Money Train. It's Moss for me. What's going on, Sullivan? Just look like you dump it. Hey, if you're there, I'm going to go Schultz over Mandrews, though. Laying in bed eating ice cream. Hell yeah. Love to watch the team destroy you. That's it. Hey, good luck, Austin Furster. Hope you don't get laid on too bad while you're laying there. Gallup over Jerick? No way. I would have gone Jerick there. Singletary or Haskins? I'm going to go Singletary over Haskins, Josh. Just scared hell get benched It's definitely scary, but I don't think so because they still have some stuff to play for. The Cowboys do. Gallup, DK, Thielen, or London. I gotta go DK there, Mr. Handsome. Like one stands out well above the others, even in a tough matchup. It's DK. Pacheco, Dobbins, or Christian Kirk. I might go Christian Kirk there. Dobbins definitely intrigues me the most. I'm just a little weirded out by the second half benching there. I don't love Pacheco. I think McKinnon's certainly the back to have in Denver. I mean, facing Denver, but in Kansas City. I guess I go Kirk there. I don't know. They're all weird options there, Dog Who Spoke. But my gut's saying Christian Kirk. Unless we get some more about Dobbins. Like, what the hell was that? Not Dylan. I meant Moss. Okay. Yeah, Dylan was certainly above Haskins for me. Rachaad White or Haskins? I'm going to go Rachaad White there. Purnell. Oh, DJ. I'm sorry. I should have understood that one better. Dallas, Pickens, White, and Purdy, White, Jones. Sorry, you super chatted us a bunch of times, Purnell. I didn't mean to force you to do it another time, but thank you so much. It is very generous of you. And at this point, I think it's kicked off, so I can kind of take my time with this one for you. So let's start with the running back question, or the flex rather, because Pickens is in there. It's not DJ Dallas. I'll cross him off. If Walker's ruled out, we'll reconsider. Come on Sunday morning. We'll be looking out for you, Purnell. You've super chat us enough. You don't have to do it again. So I'm going to go, unless Walker's out, Dallas isn't even in this conversation. I think I said earlier, I do like White, and I know I like Fournette a little bit more, but I think both backs can get there as they have. They certainly did last week. As much as I love Pickens, the player, it has been an up and down ride. He is certainly better with Pickett, but that feels like a gross Sunday night. Like Huntley's on the other side, so the odds of a shootout don't feel good. It just feels like a cold slug it out, classic AFC North like divisional slugfest. So I don't love that game. Something tells me that, I guess that Tampa Bay Panthers game isn't great either. But I don't know. White's just been okay. I mean, he's been solid getting it done. I love the player. So I'm going to lean with White here. It's a really tough call, Kate Purnell. Certainly keep following up on Sunday. I don't know if I'll change my opinion there. In terms of the quarterbacks, I like Purdy. I mean, he's been, again, top quarterback 8, quarterback 13, quarterback 14. So a nice floor. Baked into, I think, a good ceiling we haven't seen yet because now he gets the best matchup he's gotten all year in terms of the Raiders allowing the 5th most points to quarterbacks. I think they're going to be in great field position all night, given the 49ers defense is just going to swallow Jared Stidham. So I like Purdy there. Thanks again so much, Purnell, for the double super chats tonight. It's not on notice. It's greatly appreciated. And Omar, hell yeah, let's go. Making the finals. Take it down, man. Take down the Expo draft. That's fucking dope. And Mike Latwill, flex Adams or Etienne? I mean, now with a backup quarterback, as much as it's like I never want to bench Adams, you got Etienne in the best possible matchup for running backs. Mike, I still think I go Adams, though. I just can't. Adams is Adams. I think the backup might just lock in on him even further. It's not like Stidham's not great, but he can throw a ball. He's played with McDaniels before. It's not a complete out of nowhere play. Kamara, Rachaad White, both over Dubs. Yeah, I go Kamara. Honestly, I'd go Romeo Dubs over Rachaad White if Watson's ruled out Austin. And I go Kamara over White in general. Alrighty, Wolfpack. Well, thank you again so much for those of you here. That thumbs up button on your way out would be so greatly appreciated. Pollard's playing? I thought he was ruled out. That's really weird. That's no way. But thank you again so much, Wolfpack. We'll be live Sunday in the morning, 10:45 a.m. We hope to see you there. Best of luck. I hope you get what you need today. You guys are the best. Hell yeah, Purnell. You're the man. Thank you so much. Well, I hope so. I hope I proved my weight in gold with getting it right for you, because otherwise it doesn't mean anything. But so glad that you're new here. You found us. This is why we do these late season streams, even when all is almost over, to find life Wolfpackers like you, brother. Thank you so much. You can find me at Rose Street Wolf. Send me a DM if you want, Purnell. We can keep chatting. Look through this decision throughout the weekend. Just say K Purnell from the YouTube stream. I'll keep my eyes peeled for it. But guys, best of luck. I need the titles through you guys this year. After a couple tough 4 to 6 semifinal beats, real bad. So I need you guys. But thanks again so much for being here, Wolfpack. Please do sub if you're new around here. Find me at Rose Street Wolf. Find all my rankings and content at rosestreetjournal.com. We breed and feed you fancy wolves. Check out Underdog and Prize Picks with code RSJ as well if you want to help out your boys. Get a nice little kickback. All right, Wolfpack, go enjoy the game. Best of luck. Thanks again so much for everything. And Wolf of Fantasy, be the wolf. Later, guys.